Sergeant, did you go by Sergeant Perez, or what do you go by?
Sergeant Perez.
Yeah, is that how you pronounce it?
Perez. So it's Perez, but a lot of people would just say Perez, so Perez.
That's right. Yeah, so it happened to me when I was at Latin. And I don't know. Yeah, of course, I'm from Puerto Rico, right? So I grew up speaking Spanish. I know how to pronounce my name, right? But I go to San Antonio and they didn't like me saying Perez at all.
Yeah, it's my because I took my husband's last name, and so his parents will be like Perez, and they're like, it's Perez. But that's how everyone in the military says it. So.
That's right. Yeah. That's how everyone does it, and that's how I like to say it, because it's hard for me, anyways, to switch from Spanish to English.
I can't speak Spanish fluently. That's something I'm very ashamed of.
Oh, you
but
can't?
I understand it more than I speak it. So, but my in-laws, they speak Spanish, and it's funny trying to communicate to my mother-in-law when I can't speak Spanish.
Do they try to talk to you in Spanish?
Yeah, well, so that's how she speaks in Spanish, and so with me and her, I had to go to my husband to translate, and she just laughs at me, or I'll guess what she's saying, and she laughs. I get it.
Does your family, do they speak Spanish?
They do. When my grandpa was alive, they spoke it more, and then once he passed away, they kind of just stuck to English, so we just all speak English.
Nice. Awesome. All right, so so here we're essentially just highlighting another airman and another high performer here in the career field. So we've got Staff Sergeant Savannah Perez, and she's up at Hickam right now. So how long have you been at Hickam?
So I just got here at the end of February, and then got here, checked in, did my house hunting days, and then I was there for maybe a week, and we went into COVID, and so we were teleworking most of the time after that, and so finally we're back to being in the office, and so
Yeah, so well, semi-normal operations right now, right?
Yes, sir.
And same thing happened to me. So I recently PCS too. So I got here in March, right before the COVID-19 situation. So we are somewhat starting to get back to normal, but same thing.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna get into a little bit of background, and we're gonna get to know a little bit more about Staff Sergeant Perez and somewhat of your journey, into our career field, and you making an impact in our career field. So let's start with that. So let's just do a quick introduction. So just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So Staff Sergeant Perez, I'm from San Antonio. I am married to my husband for 4 years now, and we have a daughter. She is 9 months old. She's a little baby. We just got here in February, so we're excited to be here in Hawaii. And I don't know. I guess that's about it. I don't know what else you want to know.
Okay. Well, let's start with, how do you like it there so far?
Okay. So I actually like it. Like, the weather, it's like awesome. It feels good all the time. It's a little humid on some days, but most days it just feels good. We haven't really been able to do much because of COVID and being on lockdown. So we were able to do like a hike. We went to a couple, I think like 3 beaches now, because there's so many beaches here. My daughter loves the beach, so that's like the great thing. But yeah, I mean, it's beautiful so far what we've seen, and we're excited to explore the other islands as well as soon as COVID goes away.
Okay, awesome. So are you supposed to be there for 3 years, 4 years? Do you know?
I believe 4 years. I yeah, I'm my DROS is 4 years, so I'm guessing 4 years.
Okay, great. Yeah, then 4 years. That's awesome. So hopefully, once everything goes back to normal for you, then you can have time to actually take advantage.
Yes, sir.
And see everything that you need to see. Okay. How about some hobbies? Like, what are some things that you like to do?
Some things I like to do. I like to watch Netflix. um, I have a cut machine, so we make shirts and stuff like that, and like decorate cups and stuff like that. So that's something I like to do, and we'll paint and stuff. So we like to paint little things from Target. I'm excited to be hiking. I want to make hiking a hobby because I love like outdoors. So as soon as COVID is over, that will definitely be a hobby of mine.
Okay.
I want to say just that's about it. Just being with my daughter and watching her grow. It's another thing I love to do, but not really.
Good. What do you watch on What do you watch on Netflix? I don't want to get into that.
Right now I was watching. I just finished the novela, so I'm trying to learn Spanish while watching Spanish show. So I was watching a novela, and then I've seen probably almost every other show on Netflix, and yeah, and that's because I went from maternity leave to COVID, so I had all that time to kind of binge watch a lot of stuff.
Do they have novelas? Do they have English subtitles?
Yeah, they have. That's how I was reading it, and then I would remember like some words, so I'd be like, oh.
Okay. Oh yeah, I know everything about novelas. Yeah, I grew up with them for sure. Okay, so let's get a little bit more in depth with Sergeant Perez here. So, where are you originally from?
So I grew up in the south side of San Antonio. Born and raised in the south side. I have lived everywhere. So I've lived in the west side, the east side. We moved around a lot when we were little, but mostly from the south side. My grandma's house has been, she's lived there since my mom was like a teenager. So the south side is what I know.
Okay. And then south side, because I lived in San Antonio for about 4 years. So I was in 1604 in Potranco. I don't know. I don't think that's south side. So south side's more 90, right? Like 90.
So yeah, so south side is, I want to say, when you're going off of 35 and you're gonna exit 90. So if that little thing there, so if you keep going down 35, that's like when you hit the south side. So it's like South Cross, Military Drive, Pleasanton, like all those streets are like south side.
And well, growing up, how was generally your relationship with your family?
So I'm actually very, very close to my family. We gotten closer as we got older, which is kind of weird, but yeah. So I grew up with my brother. So I lived with my mom. I moved in with my brother when I was 15 years old, and with him and his family. And so I kind of was raised a little bit by him as well. And then as I was getting older, I got closer to my other older brothers from my dad's side. And so now I'm just like close to all my family. And so, yeah. So what my family does is like almost every other weekend or every weekend they go to my grandma's house or my aunt's house, and we'll play like cards and bingo and stuff like that. And that's like a every Friday, Saturday thing. Yeah. So I'm very close to my family.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, being able to be in an environment where you're close and you're definitely doing activities together. Yeah, that's really good. And then what can you tell me from your middle school or high school experience there in San Antonio?
So, I mean, as far as middle school is, I played sports. I played soccer and volleyball. That's all I really remember from middle school, to be honest. It's been so long. And in high school, I mean, I was kind of just I was with my husband, so me and my husband we've been together since our freshman year. And so was with him, and then I go to the same high school that my aunts graduated from, my brothers graduated from, my niece graduated from. So it's like a family thing. So my aunts still go to like the alumni games for volleyball, so we still go to that and stuff like that. My husband plays in the alumni basketball. So, but I mean, I was in like the senior skit and stuff. When it came to senior year, I kind of did a little bit more, but the first 3 years, I kind of just worked on school, and that was it, classes.
Okay. And did you, that is interesting. That is really interesting. Do you have the same teachers that your family see the same?
So, I don't know. I knew the principal was new, so he had started with our year. So I don't think they had him, obviously, but I think maybe 1 or 2 teachers were probably them, but I don't recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
With
they
me,
still go.
Definitely. Elementary school, a lot of those teachers taught my family, and then middle school, a lot of those teachers taught my family, and then high school, same thing.
I know my niece had a lot of my old teachers, while she was there. She just graduated last year, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. It doesn't happen often, definitely.
Yeah.
Interesting experience. They're like, oh yeah, I know everyone, It's like,
yeah, my friends that I have now, I've literally had them since elementary, middle school time frame. So.
All right. So you are done with high school, right? And then how did you go straight into the Air Force after high school?
I went to Incarnate Word, the University Incarnate Word. I went there for a year. Decided I wanted to work more rather than go to school. And so I started working more, just stopped going to school. And then one day, so it's kind of weird. So I guess not one day, but so I was at the rodeo one time, and there was a concert going on, and they were like, oh, whoever's in the service, please stand up, the way they recognize them. And so I saw a lot of women stand up. And so I was like, oh, like, man, I respect them. Like, that's amazing. And then maybe like a week or 2 later, I was like, I think I'm going to join the Air Force. And then I had spoke to my brother about it, and he's in the Army. And he was like, well, you're not allowed to join any other branch. So if you want to join the military, it has to be the Air Force. And so I was like, okay. So I went to a recruiter's office, and that's kind of how that started.
Oh. That is interesting.
Yeah.
You essentially looked up to this, or looked up to these women that were standing up.
Yeah, I never thought about the military or nothing until they all stood up, and I was like, wow, like that's amazing to see. It was mostly on rows that I saw. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, wow. And yeah.
That is an interesting story. So then go recruiter, and at the recruiter's office, or during the recruitment process, did any jobs pop up, or how did that go about?
So I originally wanted aerospace medical, because I want to be a nurse. And so I originally wanted a medical job. And then one day he had texted me and this other person, and he's like, hey, a spot opened up for basic on March, like, who wants it? And so I was like, okay. So I sent back, and I ended up being the first one to text back. So he gave it to me. He's like, well, it's open general. He's like, but you do have a shot to get a medical job. So I was like, okay, I'll go. So that's kind of how I went in open general.
Okay. So you joined still not knowing whether or not, if you're going to be a paralegal or not. You go to basic training now. When you went to basic, was it in the new dorms or in the old?
It was in the new dorms.
In the new dorms? What do you think about? Well, I'm not sure if you could, have a point of reference with what the older dorms looked like, but what was your perception of it all?
So our Airman's Week was actually in the old dorms, and I was very much appreciative of the new dorms that we were in. So I was very glad to have been in the new dorms. But yeah, so I think we were maybe the first flight or the second flight to be in the dorm that we had. So they were really new.
And you said this was in 16?
Yes, sir.
2014.
2016.
Oh, 2016. Okay.
It was March 2016.
Okay. So basic training, do that. Did you find it easy? Did you find it hard? What did you think of the experience?
So in the beginning, obviously, I was like, "What is going on? Like, what did I do?" And then as it kind of went on, I met people, and I was like, "Okay, I can do this. It's not as bad as people made it seem." I thought it was fairly interesting, and it wasn't hard at all, honestly. The thing that I was more scared of was the test at the end. So I was just like, I can't fail this test. So I would try to read every day, but that was the only thing really that scared me, besides the gas chamber and stuff. But the yelling and stuff, it didn't scare me. My MTIs, the first week they were yelling a lot, but after that they kind of just explained to us why they yell and kind of how their thought process is, and it made it more understanding, and so it wasn't bad at all. I kind of enjoyed it. So.
And what role did you have in basic training?
Oh,
Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think that was just dorm room, to clean the dorm room, I think.
Okay.
If I recall. Yeah.
All right. Good. So, all right. So now let's move to that. How do you obtain your AFSC? So you still open general.
Yes.
And how, what did the process look like as far as you becoming a paralegal?
So I put paralegal on, and so they put us in a room and they gave us a list of jobs that are opened, and you put them kind of in the order that you want. And so looking through that list, I didn't want to be security forces, so I saw a paralegal. My mom is a paralegal, actually, in the civilian world, and so I was like, paralegal, I'm gonna put that down. So I put paralegal down. Sure enough, I was called for an interview, and so I got the interview, and then I wasn't told that I had got the job or anything, and then my MTI is like, if you got the interview, you most likely got it. And so I think they told us a week or two before graduation, and then that's when I found out that I did get paralegal.
Okay. What else did you put down on the list?
So I put aerospace medical.
That was available too.
Yes, it was. I put that one down. I put paralegal. I don't recall what else I put down.
Any other medical stuff?
I think I put dental assistant, but I think I had it last. But I think I put dental assistant, and then I don't remember what else I put. But I know I put, I think, one of those three. I know I had those two for sure, but yeah.
So what do you think? Once they said, all right, you're going to be a paralegal, what do you think?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't know what to expect because I knew my mom was a paralegal, but all I knew is that she worked for attorneys. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else about it. So I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that I would be working with attorneys, and yeah, so that's all I knew.
Okay. All right, so let's move along to the tech school then. So you're still in BMT, then they let you know. When did they tell you that you're going to Alabama?
It was, I think, the week of graduation or the week before. It was very late in basic when we found out, and it was kind of, so after Airman's week is when we would leave and stuff, and so I honestly didn't even know where I was going until I figured out that Montgomery was Alabama, because I've never been anywhere outside of Texas, so I didn't know where I was really going.
Okay. Did you Was it? Did you take it? Was it a plane? Did you take a plane or yeah?
It was. So we took a plane to Dallas, and then we had a layover in Dallas to Alabama. And that was actually my first time flying too. So
Really?
It's kind of scary.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we'll get into how what your first base was and everything like that, because it's all somewhat surreal. All right, so go to Alabama, go to tech school, you go into the JAG school. What are you thinking? What's going through your mind? What did you think of the JAG school and the training that you were getting?
So at the JAG school, I was actually like nervous because it was like so much information in like so little time. And for me, when I was in college, I didn't study or anything. I mean, when I was in school, I never studied. So that was like the time where I had to learn how to study. And so I was like trying to figure out how to study and then trying to memorize everything. And then I was just like, so it was like more pressure for me. But there was only 7 of us in the non-prior service. There was only 7 of us. And so we all kind of helped each other. We would all study together. And then of course the non-priors, they had like a tutoring session with us like the day before the test. And so we'd study with them. And so, and then as far as the teaching, it was very slow paced. Like it was a good like teaching pace for me to like kind of grasp the information. And then, so overall, I think I liked it. It was a very good school. So yeah, it was, I made it through, right? So that's the best part.
Okay, so I kind of want to backtrack a little bit, because as far as your base choices, do you do that in basic or do you do that in tech school?
I think we did it in tech school, I think. I know when they were saying all of our bases that we were going to, our MTL was saying like everyone kind of got one on their list, except for the lowest ranking. He didn't get anything on his list, but as far as everyone else, they had got something on their list. So I'm thinking it was during TEFCO that we did that, where we did our dream sheet, but I don't recall.
What did you remember? What you put number 1?
I'm pretty sure I put Hawaii, to be honest. I think I put
overseas.
I did, yeah. I wanted to go overseas. I know for sure the base that I did get was last. And I had only put that because I was from there, so.
Nice. Yeah, we'll get into that one. I was just curious to know whether or not like your first choice was actually to go back home.
No, it was not.
Okay, all right. So I actually wanted to travel around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So then tech school, go to tech school. You mentioned that it's somewhat of a challenging experience, but the pace of it was something that you could actually navigate through and enjoy PAC, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And then, so they give you your first duty station, and that is Fort Sam Houston, huh? How close is Fort Sam Houston from your home, from your house?
15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yeah. It would take me 15 minutes to get to work.
What did you really like? Did you have, like a house? Did you live with your parents at the time?
So we lived with my in-laws at the time. And so when I told my husband, I was like, well, looks like we stay there still. Like we don't have to pack to move. So we were living with them first, and then we ended up getting our own apartment, which it was still 15 minutes. It was still on the south side. We stayed next to the family. And then as the years progressed, we had just bought a house before coming here.
Still on the south side?
Yes.
Southside San Antonio for life, man. All right. So, had you been to Fort Sam Houston before?
I went for MEPS and to take my ASVAB. So that was the 2 times that I was there.
I figured that MEPS and when you take the ASVAB, that it would be at Lackland or Randolph. But
It's at Fort Sam.
huh?
Mm-hmm.
How about your recruiter?
He was in the South Side as well. He was across from, I think, kind of by South Park Mall, which is like military off of 35. And so, yeah, he was in the South Side. So.
That is great. So you are, because I know Fort Sam wasn't that far from the AT&T Center when this first went.
Yeah, no, it's not far at all. It's maybe 5 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Are you a Spurs fan?
I am. Yes, I am.
Nice. Yeah, no, I've been watching to see how they do and see if they make it to the playoffs. So I'm cheering for them for sure. All right. So Fort Sam, what do you think? Once you got in there, you went to the legal office. What did they have you doing first?
So I remember this because it's so funny thinking back now. But so I got in and I was given 2 proofs to do. So as soon as I was like new, they're like, here, 2 proofs, proof analysis, go ahead and do them. And I was like, okay. And so I kind of learned how to do that. And so I remember that because I was just like, can't believe I did that as a Airman basic. So, and then I mean, as the days went on, my loss at the time was just like, okay, let's sit down, let's kind of train, go through some stuff. So that's kind of how it started. But I mean, as far as the people there, I'm very grateful that they were my leadership at the time because they felt very welcoming, very helpful, and very genuine people at the time. And so, yeah, so I was very grateful that I got stationed with them, and especially being a first term, like new in the military. I met some good people. I had good supervisors too. So.
Nice. Well, that's really good. So proof analysis, was that common that the paralegals did proof analysis at Fort Sam Houston?
No. So I think the attorney was new and was kind of just like, didn't know what to do with me at the time. And I didn't have access to the drive or anything. So she kind of just sent it through an email like, here, try to look at it and try to do it. And so, and I don't know if that was honestly my first task, but that's the only thing I remember doing when as an Airman basic or when I first got there.
Okay. And then after that, so you started training, but what were you assigned to? What was your?
I was justice, military justice.
So you were doing both 15s and courts. So
that's the weird thing. So there at Fort Sam at the time, it was me, and then we would get an NCOIC every now and then. We would get one and they would be there for like a month and get put somewhere else, like taken away from our office. And so there was a couple months there where I had nobody. It was literally just me. And so that justice section, we did 15s, court martials, demotions, discharges. So we had to handle all of that. So I knew how to do all that. So that's what I was doing. I was doing all that.
Awesome. So military justice doing, and what kept you the busiest, you would say? Like from all those things that you mentioned.
I think the busiest was the 15s at one point. We had a lot of 15s, I remember at one point. So we weren't like busy, but we were busy for a 1 airman or a two airman kind of shop setup that we had. And so I think at one point there was like 8 15s at a time, to include, not even including like the 2 court martials we had going on and our demotions that we were doing and stuff like that. But I think 15s for the most that I was handling with.
Okay. Good. So then, did you, shortly after doing military justice, did you do anything else? Did you move to civil law? Was there a civil law section there?
There was. So I did justice for about 2.5 years. Went down to civil law, did claims, and then I went back to justice for a little bit, and then I went back to claims. But then in between those as well, we all helped with legal assistance as well. And then being in claims, you're kind of like the legal assistant's right hand. So you're doing both claims and legal assistance when needed. Fort Sam is very legal assistance heavy. So kind of civil law and the legal assistant paralegal were kind of both helping legal assistance. And then also I was doing claims at the time too.
Okay. All right. So full spectrum.
Yes.
What was your favorite thing to do at the legal office then? If you had to say, okay, I just want to do this, right?
That's a good question. So I want to say maybe justice, because I like to see the evidence and I like to give my 2 cents. So I like to review all the evidence and stuff. So I want to say that was my favorite, but I do also like the legal assistance aspect because it's a much slower pace, but you get interaction with some people, and some people were like so super nice, some of the retirees, and then some were just like mean. But I like interaction with other people, so. But I mean, I'd say justice for sure.
Okay. Good. Yeah, that's my answer. If I say, hey, just do this one thing and that's it. Just give me Article 15, so I'll do the whole thing. So, but it seems like you did outstanding work there at Fort Sam Houston, right? You were, I think you were recognized there consecutively by your office, because if I'm not mistaken, in 2017 you were the NAF Outstanding Paralegal of the Year, and then in 2018 you were the Air Force Outstanding Paralegal Airman of the Year. So definitely the impact you were making a big impact there at Fort Sam Houston, and doing amazing work, and your leadership definitely noticed, and the Air Force noticed. Right? They recognize you, and that's big time. That's definitely a good, outstanding accomplishment and an impressive accomplishment as well. Something you should be proud of for sure.
Yes, sir.
So you made staff sergeant, I believe, in 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then you go to ALS, Airman Leadership School. What did you think of Airman? And I have, as a previous ALS instructor, I always have to ask the question. So what did you think about ALS?
We were the first class to go during COVID. So I literally just went in June. So we were the first COVID class, and it was in person. There was only 8 of us in our flight, and there was only 5 flights. So it was like the whole class was cut in half. And then we couldn't do much as a class. We went on a hike, but that was it. And so we couldn't do much as a class. And then we had to wear the mask outside of our classroom. But we were considered safe in our class without wearing a mask, but still maintain the 6 feet. So yeah, I was the flight leader. But it was kind of weird just being a flight leader for 8 of us, including myself. So
so 7 of you essentially.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then we were a kind of a quiet class. We were all kind of the same. We would just keep to ourselves. So the instructors would kind of have to make us talk sometimes. But then towards the end, we started all talking more because we were all becoming friends, and so we started talking a lot more. But in the beginning, it was kind of a struggle to get people to talk.
Yeah, that's typically how it goes, right? To me, every class had the same characters in it. Right?
Yeah.
So we have one flight, the next flight, it essentially had the same characters where you have at least one person who's the loudmouth, right? Someone who just loves to talk. And it's just the one who's going to continue to talk if no one else is willing to. Then you have the person who just never wants to talk, right? And you always have to kind of, as the instructor, call them out so they can start talking. It just seemed like you have the goofy person. You always have one of those characters in class. But what did you think about the discussions and the conversations that you had as far as airmanship and things like that?
So I definitely learned a lot. I learned a lot when it came to being a supervisor and just being a leader, like stuff I wasn't even aware of. And then we talked about a lot of things, especially with everything going on, all the rallies and stuff. So we talked a lot about that, and it was interesting to hear everyone's different perspectives. And like from my perspective, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like now I get it. You know, like it was interesting to hear everyone else's perspective, and then kind of like not changing yours, but kind of understanding more, be more receptive, more open. And I think that's something that ALS did teach me too, is being more open and receptive to your airmen. And it definitely taught me a lot. Yeah, I thought it was very helpful, to be honest.
Good. No, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of ALS for sure. Yeah. So I promoted. I like to see people's perspectives, and yours is definitely it's different. Because with COVID-19 and everything like that, I would imagine, because I think Kadena is still doing, and I think here too at Whiteman, they're still doing virtual ALS. So they're not even showing up to campus.
Yeah, I heard that was the option, but then I believe our commander was like, no, it should be in person if we can make this work. And so it ended up being in person.
Good.
Yeah. I wouldn't have gained as much as I did virtually, then yeah.
Probably not. Then again, I don't know. I haven't seen it in action, so I can't really, I can only imagine, like maybe they make it work somehow. I know they're doing, if it's not Zoom, it's something similar to Zoom, where they have the classroom, the interactions and everything like that. And they're still required, obviously, to be in uniform. But not the same. So what motivates you? Like, what's your purpose? Like, why do you get out of bed in the morning? Like, what drives you to do well?
So I think honestly, just watching people as I grew up, and their downfalls and stuff like that, and how they are now. I think I'm just like, that's something I can't do. I want better for myself and for my daughter and my husband and my family. So I think honestly that's probably just that mindset that keeps me going. It's like I need to do better because I want better. So
awesome. And so what is maybe an accomplishment that you're most proud about, and what is the one thing since you've been a paralegal that you're proudest of?
So I want to say that the proudest accomplishment that I've done is filling in as an NCOIC for 2 sections, which was justice and civil law, as an airman. And I'm proud of that, because even though it was hard and it wasn't perfect and it wasn't great, but I learned so much because of that. So like for justice, when I was the only paralegal there for a while, I had to do everything. But I learned everything, right? I learned how to do all the demotions and the 15s in the courts. And I know now at other bases, I see the different organization that they have, to where if you do 15s, you only do 15s, and then if you do courts, you only do courts. Where I had a dip of everything, and so I'm very grateful for that because I learned so much just being in those two positions, especially as an airman.
Great, yeah, and it challenged you. It challenges you.
It did, yes.
To try to also, put you outside of your comfort zone. Because a lot of times we like to operate in our comfort zone. If we're challenged against that, then we don't like it, right? Because we don't like change. But I think operating outside of our comfort zone, it's really the best way to grow.
Yes, sir.
So that's good. That's a new experience. That's pretty awesome. And then what potentially a misconception that could be had about Staff Sergeant Perez?
So I mean, I really don't know how to answer that one. I can tell you there was one where before I joined, my manager, I worked at Luby's, which is a restaurant. It's a cafeteria kind of setting. So my manager was just like, you're going to the military. You're not going to make it. You won't get past basic. I guess, I don't know why he would say that. I mean, maybe because I was like a girly girl. I really don't know. But I'm still in. And so he's like, he sees me and he sees that I'm still in. He sees I'm doing good. And so he's like I was wrong. And so, yeah. So I guess, I don't know, maybe something like that is a misconception of me. But
it's like, yeah. Here I am, I'm an NCO and I'm still going. So
yes.
Not only did I get past basic, but here I am supervising people. We're about to be. We're in the future supervising people. Do you supervise anyone now?
So I'm not a supervisor, but I am the acting NCOIC of Justice right now, because our NCOIC is at PCC. So I'm not their official supervisor, but for the time being, I feel like I am.
Okay. All right. Awesome. That's good. And that'll give you some growth as well for whenever the time comes when you're officially a supervisor and an NCOIC.
Yes, sir.
And what's in store for Sergeant Perez for your future? Where do you see yourself?
So I see myself in a couple of years, hopefully going to nursing school. I am currently doing CLEPS and working on my pre-nursing degree. And then I want to apply for nursing school. The plan was to try to do the NECP program, which is the Nurse Enlisted Commissioning Program. But so it's still a thought. That was originally the plan, but I had my daughter and its perspectives change and stuff like that. But for now, I for sure am going towards my nursing degree. I want to be a pediatric nurse. I love kids and love working with kids. So that is my number one goal. And then my number two goal would most likely be the NECP program.
So I'm going to throw one more question at you that wasn't a planned question. Just to see what type of advice you would give to new airmen that come brand new into the career field. Like, what do you think are the things that they need to do if they want to succeed?
Sure. I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. Definitely don't be afraid. And then also give it your all, because in this job, you need to actually try to do good. Like, you can't just half it, because then you're not gonna do it. You're not gonna get far in this career field. You need to really try. You need to succeed, but you also need that help. I needed help from day one when it comes to every little task. It's just when you get help and you get that oversight, you'll see how many things you really miss when it comes to having that oversight. And so I think that's the advice I can give is don't be afraid to ask for help. ever. No matter what your rank is, no matter the relationship, I think you're gonna need help at some point. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Great. No, absolutely. You have to try and ask for help. It's definitely good, especially if you're stuck somewhere and just stay idle, right? Like, definitely step outside and ask.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all the questions that I have. But I definitely want to thank you for taking the time and doing this, right? Because I definitely enjoy talking to our high performers, people that are motivated, that are constantly moving forward and just passionate about what they do, or at least where they're going, right? They just want to put the best foot forward every single day. That definitely fires me up, and I'm hoping that the people that listen to the podcast can also take away and also enjoy and listening to the background from not only one of our high performers, but someone who's definitely constantly trying to do better and make our Air Force and our career field a better place.
Yes, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. So.
Absolutely, and I have a message for everyone else. If you're killing it out there in the career field, I'm definitely gonna make a phone call, and you'll probably hear from me here soon. That's how I reached out to Sergeant Perez, and she was willing to participate in the podcast. So that's pretty cool. But
definitely.
Yeah. So over there, it's still what? It's 2:50, is it?
1:50.
1:50. All right. So it's about a 5-hour difference from where I am, and you still got a lot in the day that's left. So.
Yes, sir.
I hope you have a great day, and thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. You too.